Welcome back for another installment of Fellowship of the Rink. This week, we've got some excerpts from part one of Joe and Russo's Minnesota Wild mailbag over at The Athletic. We've also got an interview with head coach of your Minnesota Gopher hockey team and now tabbed head coach for Team USA at the World Junior Championship, which will be held here in Minnesota this year. And we've got some bonus Wild content courtesy of Spoked Z on Judd's Buds. Start here, meaty mailbag, as Joe and Russo always like to tag it. I love it. They cover a lot here, a lot of great questions that came in from fans, listeners, followers, whatever. A lot of talk about trade targets, 2026 free agents we might be able to go after, potential of Kaprizov or Panarin being able to lure each other to their respective teams, as they both are looming on free agency here in 2026 if they don't get extended. And several questions around Marco Rossi, which is really no shock at this point. One of which I'll tease here from Austin Cromie. I don't understand contract structure very well, but could you guys see Billy G doing a contract with Rossi for 6 or 7 years, around that $5.5 million mark for AAV, with milestone incentives for goals, assists, and points that would push his contract to where Rossi sees his value at? Russo replies, Rossi cannot get performance bonuses. The only players eligible are players on entry-level contracts, players on one-year deals that are 35 or older, and players coming back from long-term injuries, i.e. Jonathan Taves, which I guess he kind of hits two buckets there. But a lot deeper, more thorough answers throughout this mailbag. So make sure if you haven't already, check out part one, again, of Joe Smith and Michael Russo's Minnesota Wild mailbag, and be on the lookout as well for part two, which will be coming very soon. Now, let's kick it over to head coach of your Gophers, Bob Motzko. This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle Golf. Waggle Golf believes what you wear on the course should reflect your individuality, who you are, where you're from, your hobbies, interests, and passions. All the stuff that makes you, well, you. That's why every design is inspired by the desire to create a piece of apparel that strikes a chord when you see it. That makes you say, wow, that was made for me. Because in a lot of ways, it was. Ready to get your waggle on? Go to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 at checkout to take 10% off your entire order. Making his second appearance on Fellowship of the Rink, head coach of your Golden Gophers, as well as recently being named head coach of Team USA for the upcoming World Junior Championships, which will be hosted here in Minnesota as well. Welcome back and congratulations, Coach Bob Motzko.
Well, thank you. Quite an honor to have that opportunity to coach a World Junior team and of course to be back with the Gophers again. But we're in summer mode right now, so but fun to talk a little hockey here. See if we can chunk the rust off and get to some hockey talk.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Obviously it's not a new position for you. Like when I talked to David Carl, he mentioned a few years back, USA had a plan in place of like, he'd do it for a couple of years and they'd, have another person do it. How long did you know that you would be that guy? And like, what made you excited about doing it again?
Uh-oh, you froze up.
Great.
I heard the David Carl and then you froze.
All right. I will try that one again. David Carl mentioned that a couple of years back, Team USA mentioned that there was a plan in place. He'd do a couple of years and then obviously there would be another person doing it. How long did you know you'd be the coach for the team, and like what excites you the most about being the coach again, having already been through it before?
Well, I didn't know 2 years ago, I can tell you that. It was a few months back. Now maybe 3-4 months talking with John Van Beesbrook if I'd have interest, with the coming back to Minnesota. And of course I would. I've always kiddingly said, just don't ask, because you're going to say yes, because but how fortunate that this will be my fourth World Juniors, third as a head coach. So that they entrust me in our staff to get after this thing again. But there's some excitement building now because camp's just around the corner here in July. We've had our first meeting with the going over the roster for the invites for the camp, and it's such a great tournament. It really, it's an experience of a lifetime to be involved with it. And so from a veteran with it, I'm starting to get that feel, that little vibe back, and it's an exciting time.
No pressure at all. Back-to-back golds, nothing like set the bar high, but
and they just won gold at the World Championships, and John, I was having fun with John Van Beesbrook. I said, you keep winning gold medals, like nothing like putting pressure on the next group. But USA Hockey's in a great spot. They've been there for a while now. There's a lot of belief inside the anytime someone puts that jersey on of having success, and it comes with the territory now, and it's just, you want to be a part of it.
Obviously, a long time before decisions have to be made on the full roster, they're going to lose some quality players from that last the gold medal winning team. Like, what do you think about kind of how the makeup might be a little bit different this time around, or how much you think it can be add a little different flavor to it?
Well, it's a players tournament, and any coach that's been in is going to tell you that, because you get together for a very short span. Your staff does will jump in, and it's more management and guiding than it is really truly being coaches, and you're at the mercy of staying healthy in the group and some surprises inside your lineup. There is a big turnover from the last 2 years. Number one, goaltending with Trey Augustine, who led them back-to-back goals, and we are wide open at the goalie position. And they know it too. The goalies that are in consideration, and any goalie that's from the U.S. that's in this age group, it is a wide open fight right now for the goaltending position, to start with that. But otherwise, you look at your returning players, and right now there's a strong group of like the 7-8 guys that played on the gold medal team that had big roles, and you're going to lean heavily on that group, and then it's the group of new guys that are going to join in, and who's a year older, who's a year stronger, who's more experienced, and then with some added younger guys that jump in that lineup that are going to be, that we're going to count on. So, and it's a process to get to December. Like this summer camp we have coming up, it's not the do-all end-all to make the team. It's just the first step of the process, and we'll tell the guys too that there will be a few guys that put themselves in a great spot to make it this summer, but no one's going to be off it this summer, because we will watch all the way up through December.
Another guy who won gold at Worlds is Jackson LaCombe, and I know we talked to you about Faber a lot, but Jackson LaCombe has had one heck of a run here with Anaheim. Just like, what are your thoughts on what you've seen from him? And I'm sure you expected a lot from him going to the NHL level, but it seems like after quote unquote relatively a quieter start, like he really took off the last year and a half.
Well, there's no question that and hey, we knew it was coming with him. Part of it was, Anaheim 2 years ago was awfully young, and really young, and they kind of got knocked around. They made great strides this year, but he was one big reason. He took a monster step in his game, and he's at that age where he's a tank right now, and he's fearless. He's back to and I did watch a handful of those games this year, and it's the Jackson LaCombe we know, just fearless, to make plays. When I say fearless to make plays, I think he was on edge a little bit that first year, and he's playing free. Just he's being himself, and And then from everything I understood at the World Championships, he was outstanding and one of the best players on the team. And it's just the confidence he's going to build off that. He's here training this summer with us, and I see him most every day when we're in, and he's got a smile on his face. He's in a great spot. He knows that it's his time, and he's ready to shine.
Yeah. Speaking of just feeling yourself and being comfortable where you're at, Nate Schmidt, I don't know if he's going to sober up in time for training camp next year, but he's obviously on a great tear after an awesome comeback year for him. I mean, we can certainly talk about him, but just Gopher career trajectories in general. Like, we're seeing a continued track record of these guys going on, being competitive. Like, what does that do for the program in general? Relationships with teams, your ability to bring guys in to be a Gopher?
We're in a great spot right now. And we should talk about Nate Schmidt just for a second on that. And I've known Nate since he was in high school, because I was coaching in St. Cloud when he was coming through St. Cloud Cathedral. And I recruited the heck out. He is just an incredible person and great in the locker room. And of course he's got the talent and how it made us all, rooting for Florida, for us that know Nate, to have that opportunity. And then I have seen a few of the clips of him celebrating, but that's Nate. I mean, he just got an infectious personality, and couldn't have happened, the success that he's getting later in his career. We couldn't be happier for him, and it couldn't happen to such a better guy. And he is all Gopher. He bleeds, and he's not in working out. Usually he's back here training with us in the summer. He's going to take a little break right now. I'm sure I'm not going to see him till mid-July, but I know he's going to be back in here training. But we're awful proud, and I'm really happy for he and his family.
He's got to be top 5 in Gopher greats in terms of shotgunning a beer and crowd surfing by now. I think he's gotten close to that among Gopher.
I did see that one.
Oh, that's awesome. And obviously the fan support has not slowed at all as a result. Student tickets sold out, I believe Slarks told us, in 16 minutes this year.
Yeah.
It's crazy though, Bob, looking back just a couple years, even, like, there were a lot of question marks about, like, hey, what's going to take to actually fill up Mariucci? Doesn't appear to be a problem anymore.
Well, I mean, doesn't everything kind of go in cycles?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants to, I kind of just take that approach, whether our Minnesota Twins or what have, everything kind of goes in cycles, and nothing ever just stays constant forever. And we went through a little cycle, and so, the one, and I sure don't know the reason for it, but even before COVID, fan attendance and student attendance all around the country was dropping. And then after COVID, it's been a resurgence. And there's no question. And our athletic department made some decisions. I went on ticket prices and helping and with our students, but it has completely lit our building on fire to have our student section back the way it is. And yes, it sold out in 18 minutes a year ago, 16 minutes this year. And, around the country, a lot of these students get free tickets. That's not for gold. These are paying, these students are paying for these tickets, and it has changed our building. There's no question, but it's not new. We've seen it here before, and just, back, I was so fortunate to be here 2002 to 5, and we had it then. There's a great excitement back. Our fans are feeling it. They feed off that student section, and our players feed off of it. So there's no question that we're in a very good spot right now, and we got to keep putting a great product in front so they can support it, and we got to give them a reason, and that was one of the themes. Let's give them a reason to come back, and I believe we've done that.
Bob, there's only one team in college hockey that's completely satisfied at the end of the year because they get to win the national championship. You've been at this a long time. Like, how would you put in perspective last season for you? A lot of really great things that happened for the team and the program, and it didn't end the way you wanted to. But how would you kind of look at that in terms of how you would view last year in terms of expectations?
Well, I mean, I can answer it two ways, and I've been at this a long time. And winning that tournament is so difficult. And one game shots, you're not playing best 2 out of 3 where you can stumble one game. And we could replay every Frozen Four for the last 20 years, and you might have 18 different winners. And unfortunately, there are a handful of top programs now that it's been a while, and we're trying to solve the Rubik's Cube on that. I can tell you that we're close. We're knocking on the door. We're there, and it's going to happen again. It is going to happen again. You got to put your best foot forward to get there and get your spot. Unfortunately, last year, some tough circumstances in our loss, but that's sports. It just happens. But for our team, I love that group. They battled their tails off. We every day they came to play, and they put their heart and soul into everything. And I wouldn't just say that if I didn't really believe it. And we wanted to win more than anybody, and unfortunate that we took a loss there to knock us out of the tournament. But the pieces are there, the spirit is there, the culture is there, and we did, going into the season though, we're going to have a different look. But you can't help we lost a lot of players to the NHL, that could have been back, and we were so fortunate a few years ago where everyone thought we were losing Faber, losing LaCombe, losing Johnson, and they stayed with us. And this year it didn't work that way, and for whatever reason. And I've been at this long enough. It is what it is. It's just you can't change it if you're gonna, hey, I get asked the question. Well, maybe you don't want to recruit some of those players if they're not going to stay. Well, I got a hard time not recruiting Logan Coolie. I got a hard time not recruiting, Matt Nyes. And our fans get to enjoy, darn good hockey players. Sam Renzel, was a hell of a player for us, and his best hockey's yet to come. And we're not going to get to see it, but I'm happy for him. I'm happy for his family. He's going to move on. Well, we got to move on to the next next group of guys, and we are trying to find a way. And I jokingly said this is the first thing I said when I got hired at my press conference is we are going to get older. Well, the first thing I did was get younger, and I have yet to find a way to get older. And it's part of it's not part of our, it's not our doing. Parents and agents and NHL teams they seem to be taking college players earlier, but some of them stay, and then you get to reap the benefits from it, as we did with Brock and Jackson LaCombe. And all I can tell you is when we sit here in the summer and we start looking at a roster, we like our group. Now there's some unknowns. But the old Lou Holtz, I don't mind starting the year with a bunch of unknowns. I just don't want to end the year with a bunch of unknowns, and that'll be the case with this group. There's a lot of good hockey players on this hockey team that are going to have to take on bigger, stronger roles. And that's why they're lifting weights. That's why they train. That's why their parents spend $300 on a hockey stick so they can use the darn thing. Well, they're going to get to use it now. And we're gonna turn the page on the players that left, and the new guys are coming in, and here we go.
You mentioned difficult circumstances, the end of your last game, and I know there were a lot of ticked off Gopher fans, a lot of emotions running after that one. We all saw what happened on the ice with the potential trip call there. Like, is it easier to digest months later? Or like, how do you tell to the guys, like, hey, like, to not let that feeling of that linger in terms of how it happened versus that it happened, I guess?
I think you froze up again on me, but I think I got the gist of what you were asking. Honestly, you're in the moment. You're furious when and it wasn't one play. It was a series of plays that probably should have went differently. But that's sports. I mean, it's sports. And I feel bad for, you feel bad for your players and obviously in fans today's world, you hate it, but you can't use it as an excuse because we got to find a way to overcome it too. And not let that be part of our, and hope. I mean, that's the one thing that you hope that you can really have a message with your team is let's really work this year to make sure that we're in the best position where things like that can't alter us. We can't let that affect us, and we sure can't dwell on it. And it's the truth. You can't. And our whole thing is to get back on the horse and let's get after this thing. Then, and that's what we're going to do.
You mentioned more guys left than maybe people thought this year, but you also told me when guys are ready, you're the first guy to drive them to the airport. You're so supportive of that. Were there any guys in particular that maybe surprised you, or maybe other guys that would be the toughest decisions you thought you went back and forth with these kids, like should I stay or should I go, or kind of thing like that?
Yeah, I guess sometimes a coach, I got personal opinions. I think there's enough track record where we can show all our players like we can put guys in a category and there's proof on the what you should be doing, at least sticking to it. And sometimes they don't. And I don't get involved with that. I wish I had more of a say, but these young people have far more voices now than their head coach. And so one or two things are going to happen there. If it's going to work brilliantly for them, or some of them might, if they do end up struggling, it's things we can use to the next group of players to go, look, this is, and whether you're here or at North Dakota or at Boston University or, and we don't have control over what the National Hockey League does. It's just we're in a different spot today because it just seems that some of these young players just have a lot of voices and it's probably not, and in fairness to them too, it's probably not a wrong decision, but I think sometimes there's a better decision. And but once it's over, it's over. I mean, we move on. Like I've never worried in recruiting or players worry about who you lose. It's who you got and who you got coming back. And I can just tell you the Minnesota Gophers are going to be pretty strong next year. And no one feels sorry for us. I can tell you that. So but that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. It really is. And I can just tell you though that we like our group and we're excited for this next. And the guys that left, we wish them the absolute best and they have the greatest success. And but moving forward, we do have to find a way to get a little older. There's no question.
Yeah, and we'll turn the page then from the guys that left to the guys that are coming in, some of the new faces. And I have a few in particular I'm going to ask about. Certainly, if there's anyone you want to chime in with, by all means. But let's start with the transfers. Tanner Luedtke, what made this a guy that you had to go out and pull from the transfer portal?
Well, there's no question that, and we have not used the transfer portal very often. And we went in, got Matt Wood, and the fifth year is over now from the COVID for now. Fifth year eligibility, guys getting another year. But we knew we had to get into the portal and we had to get some older, preferably an older player that could step up and really have the opportunity to be in your top six. And Tanner had a terrific freshman year. And then he had a really bad injury this summer, going into a sophomore year. And in fact, it really hindered his entire sophomore season. But he is he had a great year in the USHL, great freshman year at UNO. And he wanted to come home. And that was the great thing in the recruiting process. And we've got a hole for him and he fits in. He great work ethic, tougher than snot, skilled. He's got the ability to score, and I think it was I know it's going to turn out to be a great addition for us, and we're really excited about that. And the other one, obviously, too, is goaltending, and we had to address that, and the biggest thing with goaltending is you got to give them the opportunity, and then they got to run with it. As I tell goaltenders, I don't pick number one goalies. I just pick starters, and they determine who's the number one goalie is going to be. And there's when I start talking about roles that are going to that are going to that guys are going to have to fill. There's going to be a battle on there, but that's what athletes want. They want that battle, and they want to know that they have a true opportunity for it. So, and we're just gonna turn them loose. Luca and Nathan, we're going to give them both a chance to get after it. So, and we have great confidence in what we have there.
Do you send a fruit basket, or what do you do to thank Logan Coolie for getting LJ here?
Be a fruit basket for sure. And I got the opportunity to go watch, and he battled a couple of injuries this year. Our fans are going to love him, and he is a hockey player, but his energy on the rink and his tenacious ability to change games, and also what I like too is what we see today. It's going to be even better as each week and each year go by. This kid's just going to keep getting better, and he is how you want every hockey player to play the game, with the tenacity and toughness and fearlessness, and the skill to boot. So. I don't want to put, and I normally don't talk about a lot of freshmen, and you guys know, like going in, I like freshmen to make their own noise. And I sure didn't do that with Logan too. And when Matt Nyes came in and Brock Faber and all these guys, let them do it. But I just know he's an exciting player, and he's exciting to be around.
Well, we'll let most of them speak for themselves then, but we got to flip the script from someone who's maybe a little height deficient, especially if you ask all the draft analysts, to a couple of monsters coming in on the blue line. Rambach and Phillips. You cracked the code there, I think.
Yeah, well, Maceo is going to play a year of junior hockey.
He is, okay.
Yeah, he's gonna spend 1 year of junior and keep and then Rombach played 2 years in Lincoln, and 6'6", just keeps getting better. If any player, like we get this from the NHL scouts, who just his improvement and the ladder that he just kept climbing on, for a guy that big, really put himself on the map. And I'm not sure how high he's going to go in the draft, but I got a feeling it's going to be fairly high. Those 2 years of USHL really paid big dividends for him, and we're sure excited about how he moves. He sees the ice, his head's on a swivel, he makes the right plays. May not be fancy, but he might just be one of those steady guys that it becomes one heck. I think we got a pipeline of top end defensemen we've been piping through here for a long while, but he's another one that adds right in there.
With the new rules of CHL eligibility to go to NCAA, like how has that changed your job, your staff's job, and the college hockey overall? I mean, if it's a good, bad, or both.
Well, it's a monster change. I mean, it is monumental change, because it opened up, it opened up a whole, 1,000+ hockey players that weren't eligible, whatever the number is, to play college hockey that are eligible to come here. And the truth of it is when the rule went in, I won't get real deep. When the rule went in 30 some years ago, major junior was a 20-year-old league, and now it's glorified midget. Now it's a very few 20-year-olds. It's a 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old league, and so these young kids aren't pros. It's a developmental path to get to the National Hockey League and with dreams, just like the USHL. So a lot of the, it is, I know there's going to be a huge battle and discussion between Canada and US on it, but the natural progression for a lot of these players is going to come through college hockey now. And I think you're going to see a lot of NHL teams and a lot of parents and a lot of agents who are going to want, their players playing in college hockey to get older. You still don't hit your stride in the NHL. 1%, I call them the 1%ers, play at 18, 19, but most of them it's around 22 when they start really hitting. Florida didn't have anybody under 22, I don't think, playing on their roster. And most of those teams that are playing, the same would be with Edmonton. If you're going to win a Stanley Cup, you're going to be a little older. Then just think of that for us in college. If we're going to win, we got to find ways to get older. And it's been a hard task for Boston College and BU and Michigan and Minnesota. We accumulate a lot of young talent, and then they go pro on it. So we're all trying to figure out that. But this major junior thing, it's going to take a few years to sort out. That's the real answer in it. Mm-hmm. You're going to see some real good hockey players coming in around the country. No, we haven't dug in yet. But we had our guys committed, and our guys, if they would have been playing up there, would have been pretty darn good players. But I know, we've got a few of our recruits that are heading up that way that we're going to be tracking heavily. So it's going to take 3 years. In another year, we're going to have a better understanding of it. 3 years from now, it's like the transfer. It took, and I said this when the transfer thing started. I said it's going to take 5 years to really figure it out. And I've been slow to really get into the transfer thing because I use it when we need it. But we're so fortunate to be here in the state and have a program like we do at the University of Minnesota where we get very good recruits. And for us, we have to draft well, and we seem to be doing that. So. So we'll see. 3 years from now, we'll have a much better understanding of it.
I know another evolving landscape is NIL. I wasn't sure your philosophy on that. I know some teams have bigger piggy banks than others when it comes to budgets and stuff like that, but you can tell that'll be a big part, I'm sure, of the CHL to college movement from some of the top guys. But how has your feelings about it evolved, or how much is that something you use it like the transfer portal, like when you need to, or is it now become more of a regular part of doing business?
It's the couple things with it, and I'll give you my two. One, there is so much BS out there. What's really going on, and what gets thrown around. There's a lot of untruths that's being thrown around in hockey. Now, basketball, football, it's off the rails. Mm-hmm. Now, is it out there in hockey? Yes, but with very few schools, and it's one of those things, and we are actively, with this rev share and NLI money. It's real. We're learning it as we go, and we're trying to sift through all the BS too that's out there. But I'm also going to stand, to come to the University of Minnesota and get a degree and play hockey here has got enormous value to a young man and his future. So that is still the greatest investment, and that I believe these student athletes are going to have. And if it gets down with us on a player who is being offered a little bit more money to go somewhere else, I think he probably needs to go to that school. And we're going to find ways to take care of our players, but also with this one too, they say we're going to know what everything's going to be disclosed now. There's going to be a clearinghouse for NIL. we're going to have all the BS is going to be open book. Now we'll see if that really happens by the end of the summer or start of next year. But let's really see where this is at in another year from now, in 2 years from now. But it's real, it's out there. And yes, we're involved with it, but we're involved with it by taking care of our team, not buying players to make us better. We're because I do believe that the rev share and I think student athletes, when the rule went in, when the court case went through, was right. I think students should be able to make money off their name, image, and likeness. It shouldn't be boosters just doing it, but this is way over my head. And they're trying to fix it. This needs to be fixed with Congress, and I don't know if the NCAA has the power to fix it anymore. But one day, let's think that smart people that want the betterment for college sports are going to get it fixed. But hockey, it's out there, but it's really not affecting the University of Minnesota and our hockey program. But that goes not to me, but to the history and tradition of this program. Which was built long before I got here, is still a pretty desirable place for young people to want to come.
Final question, brought to you as always by our good friends at Waggle Golf. First, make sure you head over to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order. Give me 3 names to round out your dream coaching staff, and caveat, we're going to eliminate people that you've coached with. Like, I don't want you to feel like you're, hurting anyone's feelings or anything, but I don't care if it's like something unique they bring from a skill set, something they have from a different era, or, maybe it's just a vibe they bring on the bench.
Okay. So I can't say anyone that I've coached with. So that's what you're saying. So that
I'm going to remove that for you, so you don't have to worry about
like Steve Miller, for example. Like Steve Miller.
If you want to do that, we can.
I'll leave anyone I've worked, because there've been, I tell you, I've worked at a lot of different places in my 40 years, and I've worked with so many great coaches. And I got 2 stories that I'll go with if you give me time. Is one, all we coaches are thieves. Like anything good I've done, I've stole from someone else. And maybe I've made up a couple things in there, but we're thieves. And I got to be around one coach, and I that I would like to have had the opportunity to work with at some point. But I was invited to work at the Chicago Blackhawks summer camp once, and Scotty Bowman was there when his son Stan was the GM, and I got to go to a dinner. There would be a dream to be around, when Scotty Bowman was coaching, because and to be around him and his brain and his wit and his I don't know how old Scotty is now, but he's sharp as a tack, and so I got the utmost respect for him. So if that's one I'm going to throw at you, that if I had an opportunity to be on his staff, I would have loved to have done that. And maybe I'll take it that route if I could. And I worked for every Italian, Serratori and Lucia, and then there was a Guazdecchi in there, Mazzolini. So I was really fortunate for all the coaches that I worked for, and Herb Brooks, of course. But I loved Jack Parker when he was at BU. When I was a young coach, and I like being around him, like his wit, and you just hear the stories out there. But I don't want to be in Boston, so I gotta have Jack come out our way. So there, 2 names of guys that one a legend in college and a legend in the NHL that I got to be around, and throw 2 at you. But you got Waggle Golf going. So now I'm not a golfer, but I do have to shout out. So I got invited to golf at the Classic up in Brainerd with a member thing. I embarrassed the entire Gopher nation. I'm coming clean, and my apologies. It was my first outing of the year. I only go a few times a year, and I said, "Yeah, I'll come out." I lost 4 balls the first 2 holes. I didn't even get first hole and a half, and I was the second, the back 9. I kind of threw it together. It wasn't quite embarrassing. I think I parked the hole, but my God, I was so bad, and I just apologize to the Gopher Nation because there's so many good golfers that have come through. But what I've done is I'm making a commitment that I'm going to work on my game and start to get out more. And so I've went one other time, wasn't so bad. So I'm going to get out a couple more times this summer, but someday I'm going to get lessons and I'm going to get my game, because I used to be okay. Mm-hmm. Then I just got away from it when I was raising kids, and so I had an embarrassing moment this summer.
Well, we'll find out the truth at the Gopher alumni golf outing. See if that's enough time for you to practice for that one, or you could be on the cart or that way. And,
I'm great in scrambles because they can use 4 of my balls in a day. So that's it.
Just get on there with Paul Martin or somebody like that, or the Hankinsons or something like that. So.
We got a ton of good golfers in our group. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us again. I know it's the summertime, so it's not hockey. We love talking hockey no matter what part of the year it is. So thank you for coming on and joining us.
All right, guys. All the best.
Up next, Spoked Z dives into realistic and, let's be honest, some dream scenarios for Minnesota Wild line combinations going into the 2025-2026 season. First philosophical question on line combos is, are we for or against stacking one line?
Well, I don't know if you've looked at Daily Faceoff. I just checked this morning, and I pulled it up again just now. Tell me, can I read off the four lines and see how you feel about this?
This is gonna be
I can't tell if I'm like, I'm like kind of intrigued, like, fuck it. I don't care. Like, why not? All right, line one.
Let's lead though. Do they have every player included that should be included at least?
Yeah, well, you tell me. I don't know. Line one, Kaprizov, Ek, Zuccarello. So that's whatever.
Hate it.
Yeah. Line two, Boldy, Rossi, Tarasenko. Line three, Ogren, Yurov, Hartman. Line four, Foligno, Sturm, Trenyon. Can I tell you what my first thought was? Why is my favorite line the fourth line? Like, what? Convinced that's going to be the most successful one. I was like, stop doing. I'm like yelling at my own brain. I was like, no, don't think that. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I don't know why, but I'm kind of into it. Like, fuck it. I don't care. Like, I mean, I'm at the point now where, like, I get to see Rossi and Boldy together again. It's going to be, I feel like you're going to get essentially nothing from Tarasenko if he's not in your top six. Ogren and Yurov together is very fun in my head. And then Foligno, Sturm, and Trenyon just feels like you will give up -8 goals per game. And, like, every once in a while, one of them is going to chip in some offense. Ideally, maybe Trenyon. That'd be great. That being said, I mean, I feel like Foligno and Hartman should be playing on the same line, especially based on what we saw in the playoffs. I mean, I just don't think I don't think that's what it's going to look like. But part of me was very intrigued. And I was like, you know what? I kind of want to say fuck it and do it. Unless you want to load up an all-Russian line of Kaprizov, Yurov, Tarasenko.
Yeah, that's what the chats are begging for, which I think would be very fun. And you got to at least try it at some point.
But I want to see every possible combo. Like, obviously, it's funny because, like, I mean, a year or two ago, like at this point in time, but to like last year or the year before, everyone saw the buyout money from Suter, Parise coming off and had a very different idea of where we would be right now. Last week in everyone's head a couple of years ago was very different than what actually ended up happening. Just given some of the contracts that were signed, whatever. Like, I'm sure a lot of people were more just did not see the Tarasenko being the biggest addition to the team on free agency day. But
so the Sloth hit on one of my two biggest takeaways from this. I don't think they put JoJo in the press box. No chance the Wild start with that, at least.
Right.
Which is Gonna anger a lot of people, but it's just the reality. For me, I am open to so many different line combos for that first line. There's no room in my brain for the idea that Kaprizov will play with Ek and Zuccarello. Play with either one, not both. Like that makes zero sense in the world to me. And I hate to say this because it's probably not completely true, but at this point, I feel like Ek and Boldy are stapled. No?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, we've also seen in the past, like they tried that. I mean, they didn't really, I don't remember how long they actually even stuck to it, but like, I mean, we've seen them try Kaprizov, Ek, Zuccarello before. It just didn't work.
Doesn't work.
Okay, we've seen it before. So I realistically, I would say the only remotely close to realistic line out of those is the fourth line. Like I could see that. But yeah, no, Johansson's definitely not starting in the press box.
I can't see Foligno being on the fourth line, to point made in the comments earlier. I think for me, there's a lot that's like fun tinkering there, but I feel like there's three possibilities for the first line. You tell me if I'm off here. And maybe there's more than three, but these are the three that stand out. There's the fun option, which is the three Russians, right? There's the likely option, which is Ek, Boldy, Kaprizov, because, hey, at least we've got success somewhere. What I want to see is, assuming things go the way Russo and Joe keep indicating, I think Kaprizov, Rossi, Zuccarello is the answer for the first line for me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we saw it again. We saw that beginning of the season looked pretty good. Everyone producing. And I mean, at this point, I can't even like talk about a Rossi trade anymore. I think we've just really exhausted that. But like, he's not going anywhere unless something drastically changes. Like it is. I partially love that they blew it this hard because they made it so that they made it so obvious that they weren't going to be re-signed. It was almost like they were literally telling the world for like a year that they had no plans on re-signing him long term, which was just like, okay, well, sure. That's a weird thing to tell pretty much the whole league. But I mean, like, he's going to be here day one unless something drastically changed, which I don't see happening. So yeah, I do think that first line should be the Kaprizov, Rossi, Zuccarello line. I mean, we've seen it work before. So that being said, like and when Johansson is going to be the lineup, and I would imagine he slots in for Ugrin. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if that'll actually, how much it'll actually annoy me. I haven't decided yet. Because I mean, we saw how good he was in the OHL. The last few games that Ugrin played up with the NHL team, he looked good. Like, I think he's ready to play. And I mean, outside of him, like sliding up the lineup, I don't know. Like because Johansson and Tarasenko are going to be in this lineup.
Yeah, at least to start.
And I don't see where else he slides in unless you're going to put him on the fourth line again, which is legitimately used. Like there's no point.
For more from Spoked Z, check out this week's full episode of Judd's Buds, either on the SodaPod YouTube channel or the SodaPod audio podcast feed. And make sure you tune in next week for our way too early episode, where we break down way too early predictions across a lot of things, not only Minnesota Wild focused, but also the Stanley Cup, Tankathon, the Natty, which it's in Vegas this year. Anyone that wants to join me, let me know. We're going out there and having a time. And of course, most importantly, the way too early 2026 NHL draft rankings. But until then, again, appreciate all the support you guys continue to show us. Anyone that hasn't already, subscribe, whether it's to our various audio podcast feeds or, again, our YouTube channel, The Soda Pod, where we have full episodes, clips, interviews, highlight reels, full smorgasbord for you. Keep on coming with those recommendations, whether it's for topics, segments, or more importantly, future guests you'd like us to have on the show. We'll catch you guys next week. Stay classy, state of hockey.